All right, let's go to running back. Will, let's start there. Waltez Clark already committed to Florida, so only see Florida probably taking one more back. Of course, Clark committed to Florida back in September. A strong back from Tampa plant. Not a burner, but shows great vision and acceleration, always going forward. But, I think adding speed to this position is paramount. And let's go to the top of the board and top of the country. Another storyline here, Will, for running back is running back coach Luke's nephew, Harlan Berry, recently committed to LSU, the top running back in the country, pledging to the home state Tigers. The hope would be, of course, that the family tie would work some magic here for Florida, but that was not to be.
No, I mean that's a tough one, right? I mean, you would hope that that having your family there would convince you to go, but obviously, there's an allure to playing at home. I get that.
Yeah.
And look, the guys that we're going to talk about here, Michael Turner, Usman Kroma, and Trayon Web, those are good players, and I don't think combining one of those guys with Clark would be a pretty good haul at running back for Florida, even if you don't necessarily get the kin of Jabbar Jaluk.
For sure. So, all right, let's get to it, as Will said. And we won't go in the ranking order. If you're watching on YouTube, I did throw up player rankings and stuff, but kind of just going through, the players. Won't go in necessarily a power ranking order. But let's start with Michael Turner. And 6 foot, 190 pound from North Richland, Texas. Just offered a few weeks ago. One of the top backs in the country, had 213 rushes for 1,668 yards, almost 8 yards a carry, and 23 touchdowns this past season, the 2023 season. He had 16 receptions for 131 yards and 4 touchdowns in 2023. He wants to take an official visit to Florida in April or May. Wants to make a decision before his senior season. Loves the approach from running back coach Jabbar Jaluk. And Florida will be joining Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Oregon, Wisconsin, Arizona State, Baylor, SMU, and others for potential official visits. I'll take a look at his film a bit. The 4-star can outrun everyone on the field. And I talked about adding speed. That's why I started with him. I want to add speed to the backfield, but also bouncing off contact, maintaining his footing on some big plays. Even as defenders close in, Turner spots openings, accelerates to the open field with ease. Shows a diverse skill set right there on his highlights. But I still think Florida needs that faster type of running back. Turner fits that profile. And look, Will, I think you look back at Kanan Daniels and Jaden Ball, good, hard-nosed, physical backs from the last cycle. But I'm not sure they had that breakaway speed at the college level. I think Turner can provide that. All right, let's keep going. Usmani Kroma. Man, I had to look up that name there just to make sure I got it right. And thankfully, YouTube helped me out a little bit. But Usmani Kroma from Leesburg, Georgia, Lee County, a top 5 running back in the country. Stats go for 182 carries for 1,783 yards, 20 touchdowns in 2023, 31 receptions, 522 yards, 9 touchdowns in 2023. In 2022, as a sophomore, he had 1,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 8.3 yards a carry across 9 games, caught 18 passes for 193 yards and 2 scores there. Kroma is fast, but he doesn't outrun everybody on the field. His strength lies in just playing in contact. Highlights are filled with him taking hits, bouncing off, spinning away, and then, of course, getting those lengthy runs after that. His size undoubtedly plays a significant role in this one. In his play, rivals Georgia and Florida State likely have the early lead for the Peach State Star. And then one more, Trayon Web, a UCF commit out of Kissimmee, 206th overall, 18th running back in the country. He missed first few games of his junior season due to a preseason knee injury. Ended up carrying the ball 74 times for 602 yards, 8.1 yards a carry. And 6 touchdowns in 6 games, while also catching 6 passes for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. But really, in 2022, he gets those stats there: 1,666 rushing yards, 20 touchdowns, 224 carries out of the 7.4-yard average for the Kissimmee Osceola program that went 10-4, made the semifinals of Florida's new 4S playoffs that year, eclipsed the 100-yard mark in rushing 8 different times. including eventual state champion Lakeland. Also caught 15 passes for 161 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also plays special teams. Named Osceola News-Gazette's Offensive Player of the Year in 2022. And as a freshman, 612 yards, 12 touchdowns for Kissimmee Osceola. Also caught 16 passes as a freshman for 189 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also just won an MVP award at the Under Armour camp in Orlando. Ole Miss and Rutgers are schools that might be recruiting him just as hard, even though he's committed to UCF. Last year when he had a top 5, he said Florida was sitting at number 5 with UCF at number 1. Then he committed to them not long after. Maybe something that can help Florida in the end if he wants to start to look around more. This might could help Florida. Swint is cousins with Florida cornerback Jakeem Jackson.
Well, so you said he Swint like special teams. He's not number 3, is he? Sorry, I couldn't resist. No, I mean, look, I think Florida, obviously, any of these 3 players is going to be a big time ad for Florida, considering they already have Waltez Clark there at the position. I think, obviously, from a ranking perspective, Croma is the guy you look at. The thing that something I started looking at a few years ago, a guy named Bill Barnwell at ESPN started looking at something he came up with called speed score for the combine. And for running backs in particular, really seemed to correlate with successful running backs, at least going from college to the NFL. And that was big guys who are fast. And so that's really what Croma brings to the table. He's 6 foot, half inch, 215 pounds, compared to Turner, who's 5'11 and a half, 190, and then Swint, who's 5'9, 180. Now, look, some of those small backs have been successful at Florida in the past, but really, you don't necessarily have to be a burner at the running back position. The thing that Barnwell was trying to say is that it's almost more valuable to have somebody who's big, who's fast per pound. It's sort of the way he put it. And Croma certainly has that. The other thing that he brings to the table, and I think you said it, but I want to call it out, is he's got 49 catches over the last 2 years compared to Turner, who has 18, and compared to Swint, who has 21. Really, having a guy who can go out there, catch reliably the ball out of the backfield means you've got a guy who can be out there 3 plays. He can be out there, first down, second down, third down. It doesn't matter because he can be a threat in that particular space. But look, I mean, I think a burner in Turner would be great. A guy who's big but still has pretty good speed and Croma would be awesome. And then Swint, if he can participate on special teams, I mean, certainly that's a place where Florida can use help early on. And then, we see a lot of guys who are 5'9" who can contribute. It's just a question of where does he fit, especially given the depth that Florida and Billy Napier are building in that room already. It's not just Kanan Daniels and Jaden Ball. You've also got Trayon Web in there as well. And so where do those guys fit? Not just with the guys who are being brought in this 2025 class, but sort of the same thing we were saying with Lagway, right? Is that you want to stack as best you can, especially at a position where you get injuries. But it becomes more difficult to convince people to go there if you've got 2 guys at that position every single recruiting class, and that'll be the challenge that they sort of are up against here.
Yeah, I think the reputation has been, you get the tough, hard-nosed, physical running backs in this offense, and that's kind of what they've recruited the last couple of years, and still waiting for that burner. You had that in Trevor Etienne, still waiting to see if there's another back that can do that. I think if you look forward, if you see either one of these 3 guys we just discussed or somebody else that's down the line, we can't discuss every little target out there. We'd be here for 20 hours discussing all this. But, those are the 3 guys that I picked out. But, if you have somebody in this 2025 class, given what we just talked about, who's already Trayon Web, the 2 guys that they brought in last cycle, if you have a 2025 guy that plays as a true freshman, at least you went out there and know they earned it. Like, I like the room. Florida has put the talent there. If a true freshman is going to come out here and put up stats as a 2025 recruit, I think he's earned it. Because I do like Webb, Daniels, Ball. They may be a lot of the same type of back, and that's kind of, I guess, where I'm going, where I need that guy you can't catch. And I know this is going too far, but Dips and Rainey types, you're not duplicating those guys, but somebody that all right, little swing pass, make 1-2 guys miss, and he's off to the races. I'm still not sure if Florida has that guy in the backfield right now.
No, I mean, look, I think Florida needs as much explosion as you can get, especially with Graham Mertz at quarterback. We saw with Anthony Richardson an explosive offense that was inconsistent. Last year, we saw an offense that was a little bit more consistent, but not explosive at all. And certainly the only way you're going to get more explosive is by adding more explosive players. And Mertz will be gone by the time these guys get there, obviously. But at the same time, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for guys who can take it to the house, especially if it's not a guy who's going to be out on the field all 3 downs, right? I mean, you'd love to have a 3-down running back, just like you'd love to have a 3-down linebacker. That's not always possible. And the good news is on the offensive side of the ball, you can start matching personnel. You can have different packages, all that sort of stuff to make sure that you take advantage of the skills. So in my mind, if you're going to have 5 or 6 scholarship players at the running back position, you don't want them all to look the same. You want different skill sets along the way. Now, it would be great to have somebody who has all the skill sets, right? A guy who's a Dalvin Cook type, who's big and fast and the bellwether who can go out there and rush for 1,500 yards, and you just hand him the ball and get out of the way. That's not always possible. Certainly with some of the recruiting issues that Florida's had, that's not always possible. So you sort of have to piece that together to start with. And I think given the track record that this staff has with running backs, I think we could probably be pretty comfortable with the guys they're going after are going to be contributors. The question will be, can they find that star? Look, not every running back commit's going to be ETN. ETN had some special qualities that these guys will have to show that they have. At the same time, you keep bringing –
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, you keep bringing them in, you keep stacking them. Eventually, you find that, right? And I don't think anybody anticipated ETN coming in as a true freshman, rushing the ball against Utah 2 years ago, and all of a sudden, hey, look, he proved himself. He clearly was showing in practice everything we've seen since then, the last 2 years, and he gets an opportunity to play. And so I think these guys will have that same opportunity if they've got that same level of giftedness.
Yeah, there you go. That's kind of where I was going to go once you brought up ETN. We didn't know he was going to be what he was. He did not have that recruiting profile. Where he's at now at Georgia didn't even really show all that much interest in him coming out of high school. Billy Napier did, coming from Louisiana, and had the ETN older brother here in Jacksonville that had the proximity. And you get him in the fold, and he goes out there and proves himself. And unfortunately, he won't be in year 3. Here at Florida. But as I said, a little underrated, and staff saw something. And look, like I said, running back recruiting, not really what I'm worried about. I'd just like to have, a speedster back there to go along with the power that they have, or they seem to have back there.